All right, so you're just in time for another episode of Ghetto Antiques Roadshow. And why am I sort of snickering? Because just did a video showing you these perfume bottles, and this one I just can't take the smell. The smell is making me insane. It smells like if the perfume that was in there had a name, it would be called Granny Panties. Okay, let's get this box of, oh God, the smell. It smells, I can smell it from like 20 yards away. And it's awful. It's the most awful smelling perfume that I've ever smelled in my life. Well, you'll have to watch the video of me opening that. All right, let's get to this. Let me tell you something. Granny Panties over here is making my sinuses clear up. I can't believe it. Oh my God, if you need a cure for sinus clogs, this is the answer to all your problems. Whatever the hell they put in this 1940s, 1950s bottle over here is actually working. Okay, so my nose has the runs. And what do we have here? Ooh, baby. All right, so this is a Victorian Chatelaine Rock Crystal perfume bottle. And I got it for 38 doll hairs. Yes, 38 doll hairs. So I actually think this is actually older than Victorian. And this definitely probably is rock crystal. And probably before the Victorian era. Possibly the mid 18, well, probably the Georgian era. I could be incorrect. Or maybe the Regency era. Because if you look at the two handles on each side of the bottle, it's almost amphora style. And if you look this way, we have this filigree work, which the stopper or the hinged top actually has these openings, and you see like little grills. And then here on the top, we have these grills as well. Don't know if you could see that. And generally, that would have held something called vinaigrettes or vinaigrettes. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. And that would actually have held some sort of like material that was like ammonia mixed with some kind of like, I'm trying to think what else, like some kind of like scented oils that would actually help to help fainting women. And because the Victorian era actually stunk really bad and people didn't bathe and there was feces in the streets from all the horses. And so they would have to have like sometimes even things called smelling salts in bottles like these. So this could be a vinaigrette smelling salt bottle since we have this opening in the top that's open to the air. Now, I don't even know if this bottle ever even had a stopper. Perhaps it didn't contain liquid in it, but little pellets of smelling salts or a sponge. Sometimes they would place a sponge inside of these with vinegar, soaked in vinegar, and some kind of like ammonia compound with a little bit of a scent to wake them up. Now, this is a beaut, an absolute beaut. And we'll check out to see comparables and try to figure out the date because I'm not Dr. Lori. I'm not a genius over here. I'm just a regular schmuck who tries to do research on these things. And so this was a great buy for $38. But wait, there's more. So this is the second item I got from the same seller. And if you look how gorgeous this is. This is silver. And on one end, you have a top. And on the other end, you have a silver top. And again, look how ornate and really, really, really quite beautiful that is. And this is a double-ended scent bottle. I've always wanted one of these, but could never afford one. And they are way too expensive for me. But the seller actually had these two items listed with a buy it now and several other perfume bottles as well, but I couldn't afford to buy them all. So I had to pick the best of the best. Now, he had another one of these in red, ruby red. And but unfortunately, he claimed that the hinge was detached from the bottle. I did not want that because then what's going to happen if I have to pay to have a jeweler to resolder it and what have you? Didn't want to go through that. So I chose this one. And this one was $15 more than the one with the broken hinge. And it's a gorgeous, gorgeous shade of green. Now, a lot of these actually came in red. Red and clear glass was the most popular, but green is more rare. It's not the rarest of the rare, but it's rare. And this one is not just any ordinary green. It's like a teal color. And what I actually just noticed, I don't know if you can notice. Let's see if you notice. If you look, there's some kind of herbs in there. Don't know if you could see that. Or some kind of like disintegrated sponge. So this one end may have been what's known as the vinaigrette. And this end would have held smelling salts or some kind of scented oil. And so you see a double end. One end is a hinged one. Now, when you see this button, you know that these bottles didn't have to come with a stopper. This button actually sealed these bottles. It was a special compression sealing mechanism that made it so that the bottle did not have to have a stopper. Now, the other end is a screw-on piece, and it's not hinged. And both of these are compression, so you did not need a stopper with them. Actually, that is quite cool. All right, so what the hell is this in here? It looks like hashish or hash. I don't know. I don't smoke it, so I don't know what it looks like, but that is quite cool. Now, not going to even try to take a whiff of it because I'm afraid I'll drop dead live on camera. So let's go ahead, find out what the value of this is, when these were made, and about the other one. Okay, so we got the one on the left, which is on a chatelaine chain, which would have probably hung from a lady's belt to a hook from her waist. And this guy over here, how old are they? Let's find out. Okay, so I'm trying to find comparables, and this is similar shape. We have this metal work going around it with the chain. The top is different. Mine is a hinge top that opens up, but very, very similar in style. How old is the one on the right? Let's check it out. It says 18th century solid silver rock crystal scent flask, 1740. Could this actually be 1740? I have no clue. It sold. What did it sell for? Of course, they're not going to give you the price. Now, this one is saying Spanish 17th century. Let's try to look at this. Okay, so we have a chain. We have rock crystal. Don't know what the hell that is inside there. Some kind of stuff that's inside my other bottle, very similar to that. That like herb or whatever. We have this like filigree work. Very interesting. Looks like a Maltese cross. Well, mine doesn't have that. But sort of like a similar premise. What does that sell for? 2,650 euros. A rare rock crystal flask pendant with silver filigree mounts. Whew. Spanish, early 17th century? Okay, so I think we're getting closer to solving the mystery. All right, so this is a very similar bottle, and it's caged. If you see, there's metal going down the sides, similar to mine. And this one has the actual belt hook attached to the chatelaine chain. And the top is actually different. It's closed off. It's not open like mine. Being sold as an 1870 crystal and silver plate perfume bottle for 490 doll hairs. Okay, so I found one almost like the shape of a heart, well, cut into the outside of the glass, a shape like a heart with a crown and a chain. And we have, well, the original belt hook that would have attached to a lady's waistband. And it's saying 18th century German chatelaine scent bottle, hand-finished crystal ornate silver mount of angels. And I found this on Reddit. So let's see what they said. How could one go about cleaning and polishing this? A toothbrush and silver polish? A fine piece like this deserves some love. And that was it. Nobody else said anything. Well, damn. Well, I think I just found that person on Reddit's bottle. And, wow. No freaking way. Estimate 1,200 to 1,500. 18th century German chatelaine crystal scent bottle. And they're all different. So, you know what I mean? But this has like a cage design going around it with metal. It's way more ornate than mine any day of the week. But interesting. So how old is this bottle really? Okay, I think we're on to something here. Okay, so if you look at the cap, it's open. Mine's open. And I found this on the internet. So it dates this as 1898. It says a silver and crystal perfume bottle from an 1898 chatelaine. So as you can see, these things were sold and made similar for so many, oh my God, like 1700s, 1800s. They kept making the same style. So it's very hard to actually tell actually how old these things really are. Okay, so it says sometimes women filled the bottles with perfume, which they held to their nose to ward off foul odors that were common at a time before deodorants and reliable sewer systems. In such cases, these bottles were often called vinaigrettes. Aha! So it is a vinaigrette. And I think it's about the same age of my bottle. Yes. So maybe my bottle was made in the 1890s. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's Maybelline. And now you know why I bought this bottle when I did for 75 doll hairs. Because these sell for $400 or more. These are really outrageously expensive. And here's an emerald green one. And this one is actually smaller than mine. This one's only 4 inches tall. And 425 doll hairs. And yet, here's another one being sold for 449 doll hairs. That's insane. And let's keep going. And here is a ruby red glass one selling for 595 doll hairs. And let's get interesting information. History I never knew. Ew. The origin of vinaigrette and the real lives of our stinky ancestors. Back in the Victorian times, think the 75 years or so before the era of Downtown Abbey, fashionable ladies carried their vinaigrette everywhere. And actually, before those bottles that I showed you, the double-ended glass version, they came in like boxes like these. And fashionable ladies carried their vinaigrette everywhere. Depicted here, the vinaigrette was a little perforated box filled with aromatic herbs and a vinegar-soaked sponge. It was handy for sniffing in times of olfactory distress. The ladies' attendants also found the vinaigrette handy in reviving their mistress after she had swooned and fainted for one reason or another. Apparently, there were plenty of occasions of olfactory distress back in those days. A great deal of the ladies' fainting must have been caused by the relentless assaults of offensive aromas. According to the Royal Armpits, in the latest issue of Mental Floss magazine, our forerunners stank. To high heaven, they stank. The article's subhead Riley points out, we should be thankful they don't make history books scratch and sniff. So how bad was it? Hard to imagine, but it started way back before the Victorian era. People in those days thought that baths caused disease by opening the pores and allowing diseases to invade the body, the exact opposite of what happens. Queen Elizabeth I once stated that she took a bath once a month, whether I needed or not. Henry VIII had a foul-smelling, festering wound on his lower leg. You could get a whiff of it from 3 rooms away. The royal doctors made it worse by tying the wound open, thinking that the sore needed to run in order to heal. I think I'm going to puke. They even sprinkled gold pellets into it, keeping it infected and putrefying. Over in La Belle, France, Louis, Louis the XIV, the Sun King, had such bad breath that his mistress doused herself in perfume to ward off the stench. His predecessor, Louis XII, Louis the 12th? I don't know, I suck at this. Once declared, I take after my father, I smell of armpits. Outside those royal rooms, it was just as bad, if not worse. In cities, people would simply toss the products of their bathroom visits out onto the street. In 1900, in New York City, New York that is, there were about 200,000 horses within the city. That means a daily output of 5 million pounds of horse shit, which must have just swept to the curb. Wealthy Londoners employed an army of night soilmen to cart the stuff away. They disposed of it in dumps on the outskirts of the city. One such place, typical British humor, was named Mount Pleasant. Okay, we get the idea now. So last but not least, we end our video at our favorite, my favorite website. It's called Cleopatra's Boudoir. .blogspot.com. I want to give this lady credit and a shout out. And she talks about antique Victorian double-ended scent bottles. When were they made? So we're going to date our bottle. In the second half of the 19th century, scent bottles and smelling salt bottles, known as the double smelling bottles, were necessary objects with a well-to-do lady. However, the old-fashioned vinaigrette container, the one I showed you, the box, with its pierced grill, was no longer in style and was hardly used. Someone came up with an ingenious new container to combine both the milady's indispensables that could be tucked into a muff or handbag, or perhaps serve its purpose on a vanity table. Here's the different ones you can find. Now, I noticed that the ruby red ones and the clear ones are the most common. I noticed not as much the green and the blue and the really decorated ones. Okay, let's check it out. So, these bottles were meant to hold perfume at one end and ammoniated smelling salts or a sponge saturated with scented vinegar at the other end. The bottles were made by welding two separate bottles together. The finest quality bottles have nearly invisible joints. The glass was then finished with polishing and cutting, either in the simple panels or elaborate, multifaceted designs. Both compartments are usually of the same length, though I have seen a longer side for perfume and a shorter side for salts. During the Victorian era, these bottles were referred to as union smelling bottles. And here's an ad, I believe from the 1880s. And we see some beautiful cut glass lay down bottles. And here we go. Here's our bottles. Well, one of my bottles. And they came in different sizes, as you can see. Some with sterling silver or some with gilt top metal. Aha! All right, we're solving the mystery. 1 second at a time here. And here they are. Wow, quite interesting. Very interesting indeed. 1889 ad, and here we go. So they were still made up until about 1889, and then they started to fall out of favor. And these are the different kinds you can find. Oh my God, that is beautiful. Look at that. Has a secret compartment right down the center with a vinaigrette that way, and you can just fold it like out like that, like almost like opera glasses. 1870s, very interesting age. Okay, so it says their heyday seems to be between 1865 and 1890. Though their popularity started to wane around 1875, they continued to be manufactured until the turn of the century. The majority of the bottles were made of clear glass, but deep ruby red, emerald green, and rich cobalt blue can also be found. Harder to find colors are glorious purple, vivid teal, and mine is a teal one, jet black, and amber glass. My favorite are bottles that were made with small inclusions of uranium in the mix. And here we go. These are uranium ones. And not actually they glow in the dark, some of them, if you put a black light on them. And they were also known as Vaseline glass. And these are the rarest of all, which are opaline glass, which are French. And some of them came with different colors on both ends. And they're called bicolor double-ended scent bottles. And these are various cut-to-clear cased and flash bottles, as you can see here. And here's a green one. And here's a red one. And here are more red ones. As you can see, they're common, the red ones. And yet we have this beautiful blue overlay cut glass double-ended scent bottle with engraved sterling silver cap. And yet, here we go, green glass cigar-shaped double-ended scent bottle with that folds into a binocular shape. Really cool, with sterling caps. And green, and you can see the various different colors of greens. And mine's more of a teal, closest to this one than these emerald ones here. But the rare color of amethyst pops up too, very, very rarely. You don't really see them in amethyst. But yet, there's a double-ended enameled porcelain version. And I've never seen one ever. And I've been collecting for like 20 years. And yet, but wait, there's more. There's jeweled ones. Jewels and pearls and all beautiful sorts of stuff. And some of them came with these beautiful presentation boxes. And look at that enameled one. Wow. Absolutely stunning. So as you can see, I got lucky at $75 on this one with the original contents inside. And this one for $38 and change. Well, you got to pay shipping and tax on top of that also. But as you can see, if I was to have to pay full price for this sucker over here, I would have had to pay at least $425 for it or more because it's teal. And this one at least, oh my goodness, at least I'm going to guess about $400 maybe. $500 for one of these. It's gorgeous, and the hinge top actually still works. Don't know if I can get this to open for you guys with one hand on camera, but there we go. Look at that. That is just a stunner. An absolute beauty. And really, I'm really quite fortunate to get these 2 bottles to add to my collection. Thank you once again for sitting around, watching the research go on, finding out how old these things really are. This one, I really don't have a clue. It could be Victorian or it could be earlier. We did see evidence of different dates that these type of bottles were made. But then again, it's old. And this bottle is just, the color is just gorgeous. I'm glad you guys sat around, did the research with me, read about armpits and dirty smells of the Victorian times and earlier, and the habits and the things that people used to carry around with them just to actually get by without passing out, fainting, or puking. So long. See you guys all soon with the next episode of Ghetto Antiques Roadshow.